Hello there and welcome to another edition, of course, the edition before Christmas of Channels Beam. I am Victor Matthias. Now, most of the major political parties have conducted their primary election and now have candidates that will fly their flags during the 2015 general elections. However, the process was not as smooth as some aspirants would have wanted it to be. So our focus will be to look at some of the rough patches that has led some candidates to either approach the law courts and some defect from their parties. But as usual, we will begin with the trending topics for the past week. Thierry Henry. Arsenal legend Thierry Henry announced his retirement from football after a glittering career that saw him play for European powerhouses Monaco, Juventus, Arsenal, and Barcelona before moving to the United States to play in the Major League Soccer. Nigerian Army. Nigerians searched on Google to find out why 54 soldiers were sentenced to death by hanging by a military court-martial. Well, sad as that is, we have to catch up with our online callers, but you can also be a part of the conversation by sending your comments with the hashtag #PartyPrimaries.
The political sphere in Nigeria is getting better by the day. It's getting better. Even the impositors are starting to get even more democratic, you know. So yes, there are still things to work on. We need to get more democratic, but I think generally the primaries are you know, we are getting more democratic, let me say, by the day. So for the presidential primaries, I think only one major party had the primary, so to say, and that was the All Progressive Congress. The PDP had the coronation. So as to that, I will talk of one primary, which was well organized, and kudos to the Kayode Fayemi-led primary committee. Yeah. But for the state levels, I think more work still needs to be done. And two, it's you know, discrepancies are bound to happen. Like there's a probability for those, but that is why we should have a strong judiciary where aggrieved candidates can seek redress in the court of law.
What Nigerians need to understand is that the system we use in Nigeria dictates that for you to win an elective position, you must belong to a party, you must get involved, and you must reach out to the people. The man who, for Lagos State, for instance, where Mr. Akinwumi Ambode emerged as the gubernatorial candidate of the APC, it is clear to even his opponents that he won that race fair and square, in that there was no endorsement. I was on the grounds, the primaries grounds, and I spoke to more than 4 journalists, and all of them confessed to me, none of them saw a naira being shared. None of them saw people being coerced. None of them saw anybody being forced to vote for anybody. He emerged because he worked the hardest, reached out the farthest, and was accepted all round.
It's interesting to note that some parts of the country have witnessed what will be described as a good one in terms of democratic and the electoral process, when you talk about how it has taken place in the Southwest, how it had played out in some parts of the North, and South, and also in the Southeast. Then there are different scenarios or different outcomes that we see came out. We had something that looked like selective or imposition of candidates in some parts of the country, especially in the Southeast, where I come from. You had it come out more of an an elective process in the Southwest. The same thing, the same scenario played out in the Northeast and, Northwest rather, and in North Central. On the governorship level, that's on the legislative levels. On the governorship, it played out quite well in other parts of the country, and then at the national, which is the presidential, it's interesting to see the candidates that have emerged from the two parties that we are looking forward to see how they perform at the polls.
There is no time, at no point did I see any report, or did anybody see any report where it was said, or where Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, "This is my anointed, he must win this race." There was an open contest. 13 people went for the race and contested. He contested against three gentlemen who, amongst the three of them, share nothing less than 20 to 25 years experience in leading positions in Lagos State, and he beat them. Now, even if there was an anointment or from any quarters, I am free to say whoever I want to support. As a free citizen of Nigeria, I can pick whoever I want to lead or as my candidate. Same thing for Asiwaju, if that indeed happened. Now, I'm not saying it happened, and I'm not saying it didn't happen. But what I'm trying to say here is that even if anybody was anointed, I have, just the same way I have the right to pick who I want as position. Asiwaju himself, we have to remember that he remains a citizen of this nation and is free to endorse whoever he wants. So that argument holds no water for me.
Unfortunately, parties are led by certain individuals, or parties have certain individuals as their party leaders who other members of the party look up to in terms of leadership, in terms of vision, in terms of showing the way. Then it becomes interesting and good to know that such persons would usually have their opinions or usually have their views coming out strongly when issues are discussed. And more like it when these parties do sit down to make decisions, their opinions are usually respected by the rest of the leaders or the rest of those who are members of the party. And it will be easy for them to say or would give preference to particular persons. And mind you, usually you have persons that usually will indicate interest in a particular leadership position through a particular party, and usually the leadership of those parties would possibly have interest in some candidates in terms of how they think they would be able to put forward their party's interests, how best they fit within their party ideology and principles. And it will be quite difficult not to see that party tending to push forward those candidates they think are suitable to represent their party's interests.
You have to even ask yourself, how did this leader emerge as a leader in the party? This leader whose views is probably being seen as imposition or not. Sadly, our system gives power to who has the deepest pockets. And it means that once you are in that system, as a leader or as the head, you continue to perpetuate yourself. Now, that is the system we have for now. And the system we have for now does not give room for independent candidacy, doesn't give room for people to play outside political lines to get political power. So, if a party leader who has invested, even if it's not his money, or who has invested his efforts into a process, strongly suggests that this is who he wants in certain positions, it becomes difficult for people to go against that. And in a sense, that is imposition. But at the same time, it doesn't stop anybody from going to the field, from participating.
I think three people decide 2015, to be sincere. That would be God. We have to put God as a factor, as the main factor decide all things against that. The second would be the ruling party. Are they willing to allow a credible election? If they are, then the third will be INEC. How prepared is INEC as a body to give us a credible election? Permanent voters card, how prepared are they with that? It's even less than 2 months to elections. People don't have permanent voters card. So I think at the end of the day, all said and done, primaries come and gone. You see, the ball is not left in my next court. Prove to us that they are a credible body. So, but fairly, I would say Nigeria is getting better and we are getting more democratic by the day. So, if INEC will do well, I see hope for 2015. But we must not also put to joke the threat posed by the All Progressive Congress that if this election is rigged this year, they will be forming an alternative government. So now the ball now is in INEC's court.